Okay, this is Jen the Liberty Lion, and this is going to be a Christmas video. All right, so this is from a book called By Order of the President, The Use and Abuse of Executive Direct Action by Philip J. Cooper. This is just an excerpt from a book on Google Books, okay? And so Mr. Cooper says, James Madison was right in pointing out that ignorance in a democracy is but a prologue to a farce. I thought that was a really good quote considering what we're going through today. Education, we know the education system is horrible in this country. I think there's a reason for that, and the reason for that is so that the powers that be, whoever they are, can easily get away with the things that they're doing. So I have a whole kind of stack of books here that I'm going to show you guys because I want you to see all the various writers who are telling us that the system that we live in right now is based on fictions, based on stories. Our love of tropes and persuasive language. And it all comes down to us, I think, not being educated enough to know what's going on. There's a video out that was just recently put out by a man named Sam Vaknin, and he talks mostly about narcissists, but in one of his videos, he talks about stupid people and how stupid people, or the uneducated, you could say, are bringing us closer to the farce that James Madison was apparently warning about. And the reason why is because they tear down our educational institutions, our colleges and our universities, and replace them with systems of entertainment, basically. And he has a really good video out, and I'll post it in the comments section or the description section so that you can see, you can hear him talk about stupid people and the problem with stupidity in the country. So I'm just going to sort of go through some of the books that I have here that talk about the entertainment system as relates to language, stories, and how it's worked its way into our justice system. So here we have a book called Meaning by Stephen Schiffer. And this book is somewhat similar to the drama theory book that I have. And the ways that they're similar is that he goes into how people talk to each other without saying what they mean. So they say something, and then another person has to sort of gather or intuit what they mean by that. So Austin talks about this concept of locution, illocution, and perlocutionary acts. And I've gone over these in some of my videos. You can go back and watch some of those, but a quick rundown is that a locution is something like when somebody says, "Oh, it's so hot in here," and the illocution is you thinking, "Oh, it's hot in here. She wants me to do something to help her cool off." And then the perlocution is you getting up and opening up a window or turning on a fan or the AC or whatever. So there's a locution, which is a statement. There's the illocution, which is what is meant. And then there's the perlocution, which is what is felt or done by the receiver, not the speaker. So in Meaning, he talks about what does it mean when we say things. And Austin talks about that also in his book, How to Do Things with Words, but also Language, Truth, and Logic by Ayers, A-Y-E-R-S, or A-Y-E-R, Ayer. He talks about language, truth, and logic in this book, and what do words mean? So in Meaning, he says, what does it mean to mean something? what does meaning mean? What does it mean when we say something, and when you do something, and when you hear something, and so on and so forth. So drama theory, I don't know what I did with my drama theory book. It was here it is. So drama theory, I bought this book by Jim Bryant because I was wanting to learn how to write more persuasively, and I thought this was going to be a book on drama and game theory, and it is, but it has actually a lot to do with politics and politicians and how they use drama theory to get people motivated, to persuade them to do something. You know, their speeches and how they talk, and they use something called emotives or emotivational speeches. They use the motivational words to get people to do something, feel something. And they use different, so here's political management. This whole book has really got a lot of politics in it. But they say things in a certain way, and they use certain words because they know that you're going to illocution, and then you're going to perlocution. So you're going to think something about what they're saying, and then you're going to do something or feel something, which is perlocution, about what they're saying. And they know this about people. And the dumber they are, the easier it is to control. So what you may not know about me is that I studied hypnosis, and I've read a lot of books on hypnosis. And stupid people are like children, okay? Sheep are like children. Zombies are like children. Something else about sheeple and zombies and children is that they're very, very easy to hypnotize. The smarter a person is, the more analytical and mathematical they are, the more difficult it is. It's not impossible, but it's a bit more difficult. So if you think about how sheeple are stupid people are uneducated people, and uneducated people are simple-minded, and simple-minded people are easy to control and convince, then what Madison says is absolutely true, and we're seeing it in a really horrible way in our time right now. That we're past the prologue to a farce, we're living in the farce. Okay, so this has a lot to do with words. I'm going to get to symbolic logic last because it's important to do that last. Minding the law, one of the ways that they get us to misunderstand or be confused about the entire system is recategorizing things. So you hardly hear anyone say these days that they're a civilian, or that they're a private citizen, or that they're a free man. We no longer have freed men because all the freed men are past now, too far back in history to be alive now. So we're all free men. And to recategorize us as citizens, drivers, taxpayers, or to recategorize our properties as a vehicle, to recategorize our land as a legal title, having legal title, to call us taxpayers and all these other things, is to take us out of our free state and put us into a legal state where they can contract us and control us. He doesn't talk about contracts and controls in this book. I haven't read one where they really do, so I'm just kind of figuring out on my own about contracts and the legal name for the legal state. But in this book, he talks about categories and how they will use a word or phrase in, like, let's say this is a context here. They use it here because it makes sense in this context and the way they're using it. But then they use it over and over and over and over again. And then eventually, then they switch it and they use it over here. But in this context, it doesn't mean the same thing. It means something different. So they want you to use this context in this context and make you believe that it means the same thing, but it doesn't. So if you say, well, we're all citizens, and you're saying that we're all citizens in this context, and then you say, well, we're all citizens, but in this context, it means something completely different. But they've used it so much that you think that they're the same, and they're not the same, then they can pull the wool over you much easier. Plus, if you're not educated and you're a sheeple and you're easily hypnotized or you're easily controlled, and I know how to illocution to make you, or I know how to locution to you to make you illocution so you can perlocution, then their job's done and we're all fools. Okay, so in court opinions, let's talk about court opinions. So they use drama in their court opinions, in their speeches, in their verdicts, and all these things. So drama and the change of words, the misuse of words, and or the correct use but in a different context, which then is a misuse of words, they can get you to believe something that's not true. Okay, so we have the semiotics of drama theory. I haven't read this book yet. I already can tell you what it is about, but let's look at tropes. I went over tropes. So sorry, I keep kicking my stand here. Tropes are things that writers use to draw people into a story, because people love entertainment. They love tropes. They love to identify with something, to have some sort of mystical thing going on, you know, to take you out of reality and put you into this, again, entertainment, this land of stupid. And for an escape once in a while, I guess that's okay. But when you're bringing it into the justice system, where the laws should be administered and not interpreted, not imagined, there shouldn't be fictions in the law. It should just be the law and that's it. In order to persuade you that something is true that's not true, they write persuasive opinions, and in their persuasive opinions, a lot of times they use tropes. So tropes are like amnesia, somebody with amnesia, arranged marriages. People love to read about or watch movies and shows on arranged marriages. The accidental pregnancy, blackmail, the person from across the tracks coming over to the other side and being accepted, or the rich person going to the poor neighborhood and, you know, having all these problems, and the hidden identity or the disguise, the fake relationship, enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, the kidnapped person, love triangle, MacGuffin, mistaken identity, opposites attract, politics, redemption, revenge, scars, second chance, secret baby, silver fox, sudden baby, cougar, unrequited love, violence. So all of these things are just things that people love to hear about, that we're finding in court, not me, but the writers that I'm talking to you about are finding in these court opinions, because people love to read about them. They're persuasive and they're convinced. Fiction and the languages of law, understanding contemporary legal discourse. So how do they get from a problem to a solution, or from point A to point B? Well, they use fictions, they use metaphors, they use tropes, they use stories. They retell the same story over and over and over again, like the story of Creon. Look that up. I think it's Creon. Written about by this guy, Minding the Law. Written in here, I think it's the story of Creon. It's told over and over and over again, but with new characters. The basic outline of it anyway. Metaphor, narrative and metaphor in the law. Okay, we see this in the law. We see it in court opinions, narrative. They have a story that they're telling. They're trying to shape your mind. They're trying to mold it, frame it. Okay, this is, people talk about the Constitution being a four corners document, And this is something that writers do. This is something that storytellers are really good about. They have frames of things, which are like little segments. Like if you're watching a show and you see a segment here and a segment there, and these are frames. And then the frames, these are square frames. It encapsulates a small story. It's a frame of mind, a situation that certain characters are in, and then they'll overlap with another frame slightly so that they become intertwined, and then the story starts flowing, and these people have all these conflicts come and go, and you know how stories unfold. They have these in like the episodes where you switch from, you know, this story to this story, and then somehow they merge. Same thing when they're writing court opinions. They have a narrative. They use metaphors. Okay, reading the law, not really what we're talking about here. Towards a theatrical jurisprudence. Okay, so theater and jurisprudence. How do they get from point A to point B? How do they go from problem solutions? A lot of times they make stuff up. And I have one writer here, I don't remember which one, who says that they will use students to go through a bunch of court opinions and have the students get together in groups and figure out, does the actual position flow, and do the facts that they claim are facts add up to equate to the answer to the position. So they have a proposition, and then they have their facts that they are saying support their proposition. But then when the students dissect these opinions, sometimes the opinions they're full of fictions that the judge is claiming as facts that aren't facts at all, and don't even support the position he claims to support, that the facts claim to support. So some of these opinions that these judges are writing don't make any sense at all. They don't even support the original position that the judge had in the first place. And then the language they use, the language used in one court opinion from the past may not really support the court opinion of the one that's being used today, or it will be used in the future. Because to predict the future, what do? We look to the past, and that's what they do with these court opinions. We're going to predict the future outcome of this case by looking at the court opinions of the past, and then we're going to use those to support the judge making the decision we want him to make. And then it continues on, and as it continues on, the fictions get more and more out of hand. It's more and more fictional as time goes. So we have semiotics of theater and drama. Semiotics is signs and symbols. A wink is a sign. A wink is a wink, but a wink can be a sign of something. A rose is a rose, but a rose, if you give a rose to someone that you care about, it's a symbol of love. If it's a red rose, it's love. It's a white rose, it's honesty and purity. And we have now, you know, like with social media, we have so many signs and symbols out there, and people don't catch on to them unless they're really paying attention. But that's what semiotics is. So he's saying semiotics of theater and drama, but we have theater and jurisprudence. Okay, that's what he's saying. So, you know, and, a lot of these writers are saying we have basically theater, storytelling, game theory, misuse of language in our justice system, because it's the only way apparently the judges know or can go from problem to solution. So even if they have to make up everything in between A and B to get to the solution, that's what they'll do. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not, as long as it's convincing. So I have here 3 books by James Boyd White. I really like James Boyd White. We have Living Speech, Resisting the Empire of Force. And we have the legal imagination. Legal things should not be imagined, because if you imagine it and I imagine something different, how am I supposed to follow the laws if you're writing the laws and you imagine one thing and I'm trying to follow the laws and I'm imagining something completely different, and we go to court and then the judge has got a third opinion, the jury's got a fourth opinion, each attorney's got their opinions, you know, how are we supposed to know anything? So also, when words lose their meaning, constitutions and reconstitutions of language, character, and community, how they misuse language. So all these books basically can be gotten on Amazon. You may be able to find some of these in PDF form, like my older ones. Studies in the Way of Words by Paul Grice. I don't really have anything outlined here. He talks about implicature, which is something that Austin talks about, and how to do things with words. How to do things with words is how we speak about doing things, and not what we're gonna do, what we did do, what we might do, but how we are right now doing it. So when you say I do, this is not really words, this is an act. An act is I do, or I hereby is an act, or I promise to is an act. Making your case, the art of persuading judges. Why do we need to persuade judges? They should just be following the law. If the laws were clear, there would be no persuasion, imagination, fiction, interpretation. The language of judges. Something I want to say real quick is, if you look at rules and regulations, the words rules and regulations. Regulations is things like how to walk on a military post, okay? You always stay to the right. When you stay to the right, you never get in anyone's way. You're not doing that dance back and forth in the hallway, like, oh, no, okay, okay. No, because you're on the right and they're on the right. And then somebody wants to pass you, they pass you. They're in a hurry, they pass you. And there's never a problem on a military post, because everybody knows that the rule, the regulation, stay to the right. The regulation on how to wear your uniform. There is no, well, you can wear this medal this way or this way. No, you wear it this way and that's it. If you have ribbons, if you really look at the way any officer wears his ribbons, the ribbons are put together in such a specific way that if you take your ribbons and drop them off at a place where they know how to put together the ribbons, they'll put it on a board for you, a metal plate, and you don't even have to tell them how to do it, because they know, because it's always the same. That's a regulation. It's regulated. It's uniform. It's the same no matter what. Everywhere you go, it's the same. A rule can be different. A rule on one military post might not be the same rule on another military post. But a regulation is the same everywhere. So the Army has regulation on what uniforms to wear and exactly what day and time you switch uniforms from summer to winter. Where do you wear your dress uniform and where do you wear your work uniform? What shoes do you wear with your dress uniform? What shirt do you wear with your dress uniform? Everything is regulated. What arm do you carry? What round types do you carry? How many rounds? When you turn the rounds in, the rounds are counted. At the end of the month, all the rounds are counted. These are regulations. They're regulated. Everything's exactly the same, always, everywhere, no matter what. So if the laws were regular and regulated and they were very precise, there would be no question as to what we were supposed to do. When you have rules and you say, well, the rules here are, or the rules here are, and the rules in my house are, that means if I go to somebody else's house, they might be different. But when we go in public, it should be some things should just be regulated, you know? And then other places are rules, okay? So I think there's a difference between when the Congress makes a law, are they making a rule or are they making a regulation? And I think there should be more regulations that Congress pass that are black and white and very clear, so that there's no question about it, and the laws are not interpreted. They're not having to use their imagination to figure out what was meant. There's no, fiction involved. It's this or it's not that. It's something else. If it is something else, what is it? Okay, if you do this, you do it this way, and that's it. And that way, everybody would know what the hell to do. And there would really be no people suffering, being accused of crimes that they didn't even know that they committed. Just my opinion. Game theory and the law. Oh, isn't that interesting? Now we're talking about game theory and the law. So there's games in the law. Well, if there's games in the law, we will always lose, because we rarely understand the rules. And like, for example, you look at the IRS code. What did Judge Napolitano say? It would take you like your whole life at the average rate of reading speed to read the entire IRS code. Who can do that? Nobody. If we can't read it, how the hell are we supposed to know how to follow it? Okay, so the American Jurisprudence Reader, cute little, neat little book. This is volume 8, I think, by Thomas Cowan. And I wondered, is this the same Cowan from 1868? Asked President Lincoln. Oh, President Lincoln, let me get something straight here. Can you give me a straight answer to a straight question, or an honest answer to an honest question? What is a state? Is it a state that the people make, or is it the state that Congress makes? Because it looks like Congress is just making shit up and creating legal states. And that's what they did. They created a legal state when they incorporated, or were starting to incorporate, and allowed themselves to make contracts with people. The legal analyst, what does he say? A toolkit for thinking about the law. Let's sit down and think about the law. This is by Ward Farnsworth. I have a lot of his books too, and he's got a lot of really great books out. The Prisoner's Dilemma, Public Goods. I haven't actually read this one yet. The Stag Hunt. Interesting little chapters. Chicken. And this has to do with how to think about the law. This is probably going to be a really good book. Legal Fictions by Lon Fuller, and The Morality of Law by Lon Fuller. I know you can find this one online, PDF form, or at least you could. I think you still can. This one, Morality of Law, I don't think it's online. I think I've had to buy this one. I bought this one at a used bookstore. Looks like I did read this one. I don't remember. The Rule of Recognition. I find little tidbits of really interesting information that I want to talk to y'all about, and then I start reading another book and I forget. Language in the Negotiation of Justice. Why should we have to negotiate justice? Justice and the laws should be just regulated. They just should be black and white, and we should know, do this and don't do that. And that's it. And then if we know and it's black and white, easy, right? We'll never be in trouble. But it's like they want us to be in trouble. If we're not in trouble, how can they expand the power of government? Because nobody would be bringing any cases forward for the judges to, make stuff up. Anatomy of a State, another really good book. Murray Rothbard. I don't know how much I paid for this book. It's probably online too. I like copies. Of course, y'all know I've talked about this book a lot. This is Constitutional Law as Fiction, Narrative and the Rhetoric of Authority by L.H. LaRue, who says he was a Harvard graduate and then he went to work at, I think, Mississippi. And he said that the people of Mississippi started bringing some problems to him. And then he realized something's wrong with what he learned at Harvard. And then in his first chapter, he says, the proud towers of the law are built not on level bedrock of fact, but on the perplexed terrain of fiction. That judicial opinions are filled with stories that purport to be factual, but that instead are fictional, and furthermore, that these fictions could not be eliminated without crippling the legal enterprise. Constitutional law as fiction. Constitutional law is fiction. How can constitutional law be fiction? Well, because When the justices hear the case, they use language that was really meant to be in this context. Now they're using it in a new context, but people just accept it. We the people of the United States. Where's the United States? It's the federal lands. What are the federal lands? The seat of government and places purchased for military posts. And how are we the people, if it's we the people of the United States? I don't know. It's not me though. Simulacra and simulation. This is what the Matrix was, the ideas for the Matrix movie was taken from. And then some other movies after, a few other movies I've seen have taken some of these ideas from this book. Now this, I found, this was one of the first books that I read that were a bit complex. So if you get this book, I think it's probably worth it, but take your time reading it. You can get it, just take your time reading it. And I'm going to say this. So this is from President James Madison. This is something I picked off of a website. And he says, listen to what he says. This is a quote. This is a quote about the people being state citizens, not federal citizens. Federal citizens, as I've explained many, many times before, is that federal citizens, citizen of the United States, or we the people of the United States, are those people who are contracted with the federal government to be under its power and control, who live and work on a military post, and take orders because they're no longer free people. When you become a citizen of the United States, you're no longer a free person. You're taken from the free people, and you're placed under a contract for a number of years. And once you're placed in that contractual position for a number of years, you belong to somebody else. You belong to the national government and a national military, because the first oaths say it with me, you're loyal to the United States of America, being all the states, but you're in service to its agency, the national government or the national military called the United States. And we know that the president is the executive officer of the United States of America and the commander-in-chief of the United States. And that in the preamble, the people of the United States work for the United States of America. Go read the Constitution, read the preamble, and read Article 2, Section 1 and Section 2. Read it really good. Read it really, really good. And then go read Article 1, the Congress of the United States. Means that Congress and the Constitution are part of we the people of the United States, not us, them. And they make laws for the national government, not for the people off federal lands. So what does James Madison say? The powers, this is like the 10th Amendment kind of stuff. The powers reserved to the several states will extend to all the objects which, in the ordinary course of affairs, concern the lives, liberties, and properties of the people. But hold that, because he's not talking about the people of the United States. He's talking about the people of the states, because hold that, he says the people and the internal order, improvement, and prosperity of the states. So he's talking about the people, their internal order, their improvement, and their prosperity. So the people of the states. So we could say that backwards. The states, people, are concerned with the internal order, improvement, and their own prosperity. So James Madison says, quote, the powers reserved to the several states will extend to all the objects which in the ordinary course of affairs concern the lives, liberties, and properties of the people and the internal order, improvement, and prosperity of the state. Okay, so once the people of the states are free and living in their republics, them being prosperous in their state, being free people, being prosperous in their state, also brings prosperity to the entire country. Okay, because all the states, right? All the states are together in a confederation, whether or not you like the word or not, because it brings about, perlocutions some intense feelings of slavery and anti-slavery and Civil War issues. The Confederacy really didn't have anything to do with slavery. So let's look at something real quick. One more book. Oh, here it is. Symbolic logic. Okay, the reason why I want to go over this book really quick is because symbolic logic has to do with taking out fiction. So if you have a statement, remember when I said there were students, and these students were given court opinions, and they analyzed the court opinions to see, does it actually support the judge's original position? Do the facts that the judge claims are facts, are they actually facts? And do they bring you to the solution properly? Do they really support the solution? And the answer was no. Some of these court opinions do not support, or these opinions, the facts in the opinions aren't facts, and they really don't support the outcome. So how do they find out? How do they analyze? Well, they use something called symbolic logic. Symbolic logic is a type of math where they turn words into symbols, and then they can more easily eliminate all the excess garbage in a sentence, and they come to just a factual statement. And if it doesn't come out to be a factual statement, it's thrown out as opinion. And so we have PQ and PVQ is either true or false. So if P is true and Q is true, then P or Q are both true. So it's kind of like a negative positive situation, right? If P is true and Q is true, the answer is true. If P is true and Q is false, the answer is true. If P is false and Q is true, the answer is true. But if P is false and Q is false, the answer is false. Okay, it's right here. Right there. And that's just, that's so brief, it doesn't really mean anything, but let's look at just how they complicate things. So these students are in these classes, they learn these mathematical equations so they can figure out how to turn words into symbols, and the symbols are you're basically turning a sentence into a mathematical statement, and either it equals out or it doesn't. If it doesn't equal out, it's thrown out as opinion if you're looking for facts. And then if it does equal out, you can accept this as a true statement, as an actual true statement in support of the original position, right? So it's called symbolic logic. There's some stuff on the internet. You can read about symbolic logic. It is a math, so you have to be a little bit mathematically inclined, or you have to just be able to sink the time in and study it a lot. So I wanted to also just quickly go over Napolitano's book, Freedom's Anchor. I paid $50 for this book, and I was a bit disappointed in it. The reason why is because I thought he was going to go over positive law, which is a type of citation, the positive law citation that's given to each law or the title. And he didn't go over the positive law. He didn't go over titles or acts that don't have a positive law citation. And he didn't go over contracts. So for my viewers, I would rate this book as like 0 or 1 because it didn't go over the, I think, fundamental questions that most of us are asking or would want answers to. Instead, he just goes over the history of the Constitution, which is really his position on what the Constitution is not the same as my position on what the Constitution is. And so I would disagree with it. Now on Amazon, I did give him 5 stars because it's well written. It's very informative. He does have a lot of case law in it, which does, to a great extent, expand the Constitution beyond what I think it is. He doesn't believe, I would say that he probably doesn't believe that it's a military constitution, which is what one of the founders called it. He called it that military constitution because it's a constitution of the United States. It's a military for America, for the states collectively. The United States is a military for the states collectively, but he doesn't go through that. And he doesn't go through how basically they're using the laws that they pretend to be laws that have no proper citation in it, called a positive law citation, that require us to individually sign contracts or do certain things with the government, or because we have no choices really. And those are different types of contracts, either explicit or implicit, express or implied, written or unwritten. He doesn't go over that. And I think that's really a fundamental thing that we need to learn and be aware of, because contracts are how we have our rights taken from us. They take our rights from us by way of contracts and by way of us being uneducated, and by redefining words or using them in a new context that doesn't really portray their meaning accurately. And through the education system, us being dumped down so much, not being taught, and education is even in the law of nations, the natural law, that we should be, a good country is going to have, a successful country is going to have highly educated people. That's extremely important. So I don't know, I have like a ton of books here, and I just wanted to show you some of the books that I'm reading and where I get my information from. So Simulacra and Simulation, The Morality of Law, Legal Analyst Ward Farnsworth. I really like his writing. It's easy to read. Language of Judges by Lawrence Salon. Scalia, Making Your Case. Sorry if you can't see these, you can hear me. Constitutional Laws Fiction by LaRue. Anatomy of State, Murray Rothbard. Language and the Negotiation of Justice. Doesn't have an author. It's by Rutledge Publishers. Legal Fictions by Lon Fuller. I haven't read this one yet. It's on my list. By Order of the President, The Use and Abuse of Executive Direct Action by Philip Cooper. Freedom's Anchor, which I don't really recommend for my audience. This cute little book, The American Jurisprudence Reader. Game Theory and the Law. Symbolic Logic. You can learn about symbolic logic online at some of these free websites. Some of them are really explanatory. Studies in the Way of Words, Paul Grice. James Boyd White. Anything by James Boyd White. When Words Lose Their Meaning. And James Boyd White is referenced in a lot of the books I read. So if you can afford to buy and would like to buy the James Boyd White books, try that. James Boyd White, The Legal Imagination. James Boyd White, Living Speech, Resisting the Empire of Force. Don't recommend this book because I haven't read it yet, but I've read a little piece of it and I didn't particularly like it. Noam Chomsky on Language. Towards a Theatrical Jurisprudence, Marriott Leiboff, Leiboff. The Semiotics of Theater and Drama. Semiotics, I think you can look that up online and find some stuff on semiotics. It's pretty interesting. Narrative and Metaphor in the Law. Fiction and the Languages of Law. Trope, this lady, she writes some really good books. I read this book in a couple hours. Jennifer Hilt. If you're interested in writing or knowing about writing. Stephen Sheffer, Meaning. Okay, also referenced in a lot of books. Language, Truth, Logic, Ayer. Drama Theory. I got a lot of political stuff in it. Jim Bryant. Definitely recommend this one. If this is the only book you get this one. How to Do Things with Words by Austin. And then a few other books I have. A Hand List of Rhetorical Terms. I don't recommend that one. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. John Stuart Mill, The Subjection of Women. That was really good. I liked it. Again, small book. Read it in a few hours. Really good information. John Stuart Mill's a good writer. Very, very liberty-minded. Reading Law, the Interpretation of Legal Text. This is good for canons. He's got the canons of legal text and how they go about interpreting text, which includes contracts. Minding the Law, Amsterdam and Brunner. And then I haven't read a couple of these. This is Legal Positivism in American Jurisprudence. Have not read this one. Legal Positivism, The Cambridge Companion to Legal Positivism by Spack and Mindus. I haven't read it yet. It's big. I got some other stuff to do. Signs and Use and Introduction to Semiotics. Paradoxes. Read a little bit of that one. It's good. Logical Positivism. Logical Positivism by Ayer. Ayer also wrote this book. Language, Truth, and Logic. And my favorite, one of my favorite philosophers, author Schopenhauer, The World as Will and Representation. And again, I'm going to post that video by Sam Vaknin in the description, and get one of these books and read it. Read this one, How to Do Things with Words. I believe it's on the internet in PDF form. Okay, so Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I hope you guys come back and watch some more of this bullshit that I have to offer you. And I'm gonna go over some of the important stuff in some of these books as much as I can. I have a whole library of books that I've been reading over the past like 15 years. So I've got a lot of information I could share with you all. This doesn't even include my digital books. So I'll have my book ready to be published soon. It's copyrighted. I'm just putting some finishing touches on it. And I've actually got like at least five books ready to get finishing touches on them and copyrighted and stuff. So stay tuned. I hope you support me. I'm trying to write my books in a way that the lay reader, the average person who doesn't have time to sit and, regurgitate everything that they read for hours and hours a day to try to understand it, or read it over and over and over again to understand it. So hopefully when my books are published and you can get a copy of it, it'll be simple and easy for you to understand. So with that, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and stay safe out there. Have a great time with your friends and family, or whoever you choose to spend time with, and I'll see you in the next video.